Hey, what's up, people? Welcome to my review and analysis for Star Wars Invasion Volume 3 Revelations. This is the story about the Galfridian royal family from the planet Artorias and their fight against the Yuuzhan Vong during the Yuuzhan Vong invasion that takes place during the New Jedi Order book series. So, my feelings towards this last volume is that this volume was a little bit of a mixed bag. Now, I enjoyed volumes 1 and 2 for the most part, but this last and final volume ends open ended because I presume it was canceled, or maybe the story concludes in one of the New Jedi Order books. I haven't read them all. I've only read the central stories, the main stories, books such as Vector Prime, Star by Star, The Unifying Force, etc. But regardless, this volume, it just it feels jarring because they introduced this character named Dre who out of nowhere has his own agenda, and it feels forced, and in the end it was just not compelling. The character Dre is not interesting, his motivations are not clear, and therefore it's hard to get into the character's mind as to why he's doing what he is doing. Now, we'll elaborate more on the character Dre later. Now, in regards to the artwork, it's a mixed bag. There's a certain style that is being done in this book, and it's an acquired taste. It comes across as very abstract at times and maybe even a little lazy, but I wouldn't say it's the worst artwork that I've seen for a Star Wars comic. I do appreciate the art nonetheless because I love having a visual reference for all the Yuuzhan Vong technology and just the war in general, because we have very little visual references to this story, which I like for the most part. I like the New Jedi Order book series for the most part. I enjoy it mainly because it's a novel idea. It's not the Jedi fighting against the Sith all over again, like we've seen time to time. And I also love the philosophical implications of fighting an enemy that does not have the force or that is not present in the force. So this is somewhat of a conundrum for the Jedi. Now, in regards to the other characters in this story, our main protagonists, I feel like this story was a little bit of a letdown as far as their character arcs. I remember finishing volume 2 and feeling really good about the character Kay, the daughter, the princess. I felt like she was empowered and really fighting like a tough badass girl. It was really nice to see her take charge in the fight against the Yuuzhan Vong with her mother Nina, and the other character Finn, the prince, would try to go rescue his father and failed in that attempt. Now, when we left the last volume, we find out in a twist that the queen, Kay and Finn's mother, is a Yuuzhan Vong. So that was a little bit of a cliffhanger. And how we follow up in this story, it just felt like there was very little progress to the story or very little added. I will say this, there was way more added to the story as far as Nina and Kay's story, but as far as Finn, it was a total letdown. This guy got barely anything done in this story. Very little happens to him, very little growth. I mean, they totally derailed the story for Finn. So, in the original volumes, volume 1 and 2, he's fighting against the Yuuzhan Vong. That's where his attention is going. Now it gets derailed to this whole thing with Dre, who is like this weird, eccentric Jedi that comes across as almost unkept or sloppy. And then there's a twist, and basically Dre turns out to be like a Sith Lord or a dark sider, and he wants Finn to join him so that he can rule the galaxy. And it's just like, wait, what? Where's this coming from? This is a total derailing of the story. It feels unimportant. I don't care about this guy Dre. I mean, and even from a visual perspective, if you see this character Dre, he looks like the Big Lebowski trying to be a Jedi or something. It's just like, really? This guy wants to rule the galaxy? Get the hell out of here. Like, what a joke. It's a joke. And he comes across like, oh, I want to rule the galaxy. Finn, join me. And basically, of course, Finn is like, no, I'm out. And then that's it. That's it for Finn. And the whole temptation for Finn was to assassinate or kill the chief of state, Borsk Fela. And that's it. And there wasn't a single moment of suspense for me. It was just a total drag because this character, Dre, was just so lame. And they tried to make it seem like he was this cool dark sider and oh, you really didn't know he was a dark sider because initially at first, like I said, he just comes across as an eccentric Jedi. And then all of a sudden, there's these little subtle clues that he's into the dark side. He's encouraging Finn to be aggressive and to give into his hatred and stuff like that. And then this twist, this big revelation from Dre that he basically wants the Yuzon Vong to be beaten because he actually wants to be the one to rule the galaxy. And it's just comes across as so pathetic. Like there's not a single moment where you can even feel the possibility that this idiot Dre would even rule the galaxy or even get remotely close to it. It was just so stupid and pointless. So that's my major criticism for this story. As far as the story involving Kay and her mother, it was good. I enjoyed that part of the story more than anything. So, with that being said, let's begin this review and in depth analysis of Star Wars Invasion Volume 3 Revelations. So, in the previous chapter, the Galfridian royal family and their planet were attacked by the Yuzon Vong. The Princess Kay and her mother Nina took over a slave ship, a Yuzon Vong slave ship, and they rescued thousands of refugees. And her brother Finn, who was being trained as a Jedi by Luke Skywalker, abandoned his training in an attempt to rescue his father, the king. But ultimately, he failed in his attempt with his father dying. Now, an interesting thing that occurred in the previous chapters is that we learn that the mother, the queen, Nina, is a Yuzon Vong. Now, this story begins with Finn training with the eccentric Jedi named Dre on the planet Narshada. And he has a creature, a Yuzon Vong life form, growing inside of him, and this basically helps him sense the enemy, helps him sense the Yuzon Vong. Now, Dre and Finn leave for Coruscant because Dre senses an assassination attempt on Borsk Fela, the chief of state. Now, while this is going on, Kay, the princess, is upset to learn that her people and the refugees have been placed under the care of the Empire and taken off planet to the Imperial planet called Shamar. Now, on Reichel, or Reichel, I don't know how to pronounce it, whatever, the Jedi Euladon is being experimented on by Yuzon Vong warrior Sallock and his mate. Now, his hand is chopped off. Sallock chops off Euladon's hand when he accidentally touches Sallock's mate. And it just shows and illustrates the brutality of this Sallock character who has a vendetta against Finn because they fought previously. Now, Finn has reservations about killing in general, but Dre tells him that he believes that the Yuzon Vong are not truly alive and that they are an infection that needs to be dissected and purged from the galaxy. Dre does not hesitate to use Force suggestion and Jedi mind tricks to get his way, primarily access to Chief of State Borsk Fela at Coruscant. So it's very subtle. You can see Dre using dark side tactics in a subtle way And this is basically hinting that there is more than meets the eye to this character. Now, Kay and her mother Nina go to the Imperial planet Shamar in the Yuzon Vong slave ship, but are ultimately attacked because the Imperials think that they are Yuzon Vong. Now, while this goes down, Finn is eavesdropping on the Chief of State, Boris Kvela, and the Imperial ambassador, and it turns out that they don't even believe that there is a true invasion and that maybe even the Yuzon Vong exists. And they speak very negatively about Finn's home planet, almost like they are second class citizens of undesirables because they are a planet in the outer rim. Now he's discovered and knocked out by the Imperial ambassador of Shamar, who is really a Yuzon Vong disguised as a human. Now the chief of state believes that Finn is an assassin. Now Nina convinces the Imperials that they are not Yuzon Vong, but the Imperials still refuse to allow them to land because they want no more refugees on their planet. And even when they explain to the Imperials that they have family members on board their ship who want to see the survivors, they only allow them to land under the condition that they agree not to take any refugees off planet. And I immediately thought this was a weird request from the Imperials. And it's going to be revealed later as to why. Now, a young child tries to go to their ship and is shot in the back by Imperials. And I thought this was a real brutal scene, and it was a great way to illustrate the ruthlessness of the Imperials and also to spark intrigue as to why they're so adamant about not having the refugees that they seem to not even like leave their planet. Like, you would think that they would want them to leave. Now, Sallock learns from the Imperial ambassador, who is really a Yuzon Vong, that Finn is still alive, and basically Sallock wants to kill him personally. And one of the main reasons is because he fears the notion that Finn can see through their disguise because he has something Yuzon Vong living inside him, and he's a Force user. So this capability, combined with the fact that Finn is a Force user, kind of scares Sallock. Now, the child who was shot tells the princess, Kay, that the Imperials are forcing them to harvest their fields at the threat of their lives. So they're basically being forced by the Imperials to harvest their fields. And this is the reason why they don't want the refugees to leave Shamar. They even killed some of their people. Now, this really upsets the Queen, Nina, and she requests a face to face meeting with the head Imperial. And the Queen Nina reveals during this meeting to the Imperials that she is a Yuzon Vong, and she and her daughter basically ripped the Imperials apart with their bare hands. And this was a great scene. It was very exciting. And they do this separately, so don't think that the daughter is there with her mother kicking the Imperials' asses, because it happened. So you got the daughter over here doing it, and in another place, the mother's doing it. So, in other words, I'm trying to say that the daughter, Kay, still is not aware that her mother is a Yuzon Vong. Now, the daughter, Nina, has no idea where this power, this strength comes from. She doesn't know how she's able to do this. Now, as this goes on, Dre intends to replace the chief of state, and he doesn't value Boris Fela's life, and he conveys this to Finn. And again, this is just illustrating that there's something wrong with this character, something that shows attributes of the dark side. And Kay learns, finally, that her mother is a Yuzon Vong, and when she learns this revelation, she is terrified and tells her to stay away from her. When she calms down, she wants to know if she is part Yuzon Vong, and her mother speaks to Savan La a central villain from the new Jedi Order book series, and he demands that she return their slave ship to him and tells her that he is sending Yuzon Vong forces to her location on the planet Shamar. And Savan La tells Sallock to lead this attack on the planet Shamar. Now, in regards to the queen telling her daughter whether she is part Yuzon Vong, we get an ambiguous answer. It's not clear, but if I had to guess, the answer is yes. Now, Fela refuses to provide support and aid to Shamar. And Finn overhears this, and he overhears the chief of state, Fela. He hears his contempt for the queen, who is his mother, and he hears his total disregard for the lives of the refugees. And he calls them, he says that they're from backwater planets and he doesn't care. And again, this is the chief of state illustrating to those around him that he views these planets on the outer rim almost like they're the citizens, second class citizens. Now, Finn overhears this and he becomes furious and he puts a lightsaber to the chief of state's neck, which I thought was kind of stupid. At this point in the story, I thought that Finn was going dark, and I didn't think it was stupid. But it turns out that, oh no, I wasn't trying to hurt you. I was just pointing at you or something like that. My bad. And I was just like, what? Why would you do that if you didn't have intent to hurt the guy or to scare the guy at the very least? I thought he was trying to scare him. But then later in the story, it's like, oh no, it was an accident. I didn't mean to put this lightsaber 1 centimeter away from your neck. Again, Finn's portion of this story, of this series, in this final volume, sucks. They really failed his character. He was the most interesting of all the protagonists in volume 1 and 2, in my opinion, but they just totally derailed his story. Now, while this goes down, Admiral Basilma defies the Chief of State's orders, which are to not assist the Queen in the prevention of the Yuzon Vong attack, and he basically requests all local ships, whether they're military or civilian, to fight against the Yuzon Vong at Shamar. And some ultimately end up answering the call. Now, the Queen organizes the evacuation of the refugees off planet with the Imperials, who initially made a deal with the Yuzon Vong and are now betrayed. Now, the Queen reveals to the Admiral that she is a Yuzon Vong and that she is a shamed one. And she tells the Admiral that she knows how to defeat them. And she explains that the Yuzon Vong have been present on the planet Shamar for longer than they all believe, and that they are harvesting lambent crystals and food, and that the crystals are used for the controls for their ships. So this is very important, this harvesting that's going down here. And she says if they destroy these resources, it will ultimately hurt the Yuzon Vong extremely. Now, Finn tells the chief of state that he better believe that the Yuzon Vong are real because they are conquering worlds, and his father sacrificed his life by fighting against them. But the chief of state is too arrogant and prideful. Now, all of a sudden, a Twi'lek bodyguard tracks down Finn and he tells her that the Imperial ambassador is a Yuzon Vong and the real assassin. Now, together, they confront the ambassador and he tells them that he doesn't want to kill the chief of state because he's the perfect idiot. He's the perfect puppet for the Yuzon Vong invasion precisely because he doesn't believe. I thought this was interesting. But ultimately, this little interesting moment is ruined because out of nowhere, Dre reveals that he is a Sith or a Darksider or something, and he wants to kill all the Yuzon Vong so that he can rule the galaxy. So he wants basically a chief of state that's going to fight the Yuzon Vong, not one that's going to be passive and not believe in their existence and allow the Yuzon Vong to basically conquer the Republic. And the way Dre reveals himself right here, it just comes across as stupid. It's like, imagine a homeless looking, Big Lebowski looking bum just waving a lightsaber around. His hair's all messy. He's got a huge receding hairline and he's kind of fat and he's like, I'm going to rule the world. It's just like, dude, really? Like, I mean, it just came out of nowhere and it just made me laugh more than anything. It just came across as stupid and unnecessary to the story. Again, they totally derailed Finn's story arc with this stupid Dre character. He should have never even been paired with this guy. Now, Finn, he refuses to kill the Imperial Vong ambassador and the bodyguard in cold blood. And basically, Dre senses that the death of the Jedi Yuladon had just gone down and that the Yuzon Vong have created the weapon that will help them win the war from them. But Finn doesn't care, man. He refuses to help Dre and he escapes. Now, while this goes down, the Queen reveals to Sallock that she is a Yuzon Vong and that the attack against their resources has begun. And they are successful in evacuating the refugees and destroying the Yuzon Vong's resources. The Queen then broadcasts to the entire galaxy in the Outer Rim that she is a Yuzon Vong and that the Outer Rim Alliance has been formed. Since the New Republic doesn't care about the invasion, and everyone is shocked by this revelation, and this is where the graphic novel ends. So as you can see, as far as the Queen and the Princess, Nina and Kay, their story was fairly interesting. It was what I expected. But as far as Finn, it was just like who gives a shit? This thing was just a waste of my time. Not really a waste of my time, but a waste of the character's time. And when this volume is done, like I could care less about Dre. I'm not there like, oh, is Dre gonna is he gonna ultimately fight against you? Like I don't care about this loser Darksider wannabe, not even in the slightest. I don't care if he pops up again in another Star Wars medium. He is probably literally the worst Sith, Darksider, Jedi, Force user, whatever, you name it, out of all the Star Wars lore that I've ever experienced. Like, I've never seen a character so bland, stupid, and forgettable as this Dre Darksider character. It was just a waste of Finn's time. They could have totally built on his little battle or this little competition, this vendetta that he has between him and Sallock. That would have been a perfect way to end Volume 3. Have him fight Sallock again. A rematch. And then have him defeat him. Have Finn defeat Sallock. And then that would have been a perfect send-off to the story. If the series got canceled, whatever. At least there would have been some closure. But this whole like Finn runs off and I'm not gonna help you become a Darksider or rule the galaxy. Like, it's pathetic, man. There is absolutely no way whatsoever that this character Dre will ever rule the galaxy. And not only that, not even for the inkling of a millisecond would you get me to even believe that he could. So, that being said, I gotta give this final volume in this Invasion series a C. It was a little bit of a letdown, but there was some good things. I enjoyed Nina and Kay's story for the most part. It's very unfortunate that the series ended right here with a cliffhanger and unresolved, but nevertheless, I enjoyed these stories because they were some kind of visual reference to the Yuzon Vong War, the New Jedi Order series, and I feel like they helped me appreciate those books more. And again, it just expands the story for me. It expands the universe for me. And again, I really appreciate the visual reference for this battle, this war against the Yuzon Vong. Thank you guys for listening to this review and in-depth analysis. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, and share. May the Force be with you, And last but not least, one love, people. Take care.